Who is Winston Churchill? Winston Churchill, 1874–1965, was a British politician, statesman, and author who is widely considered one of the most important figures of the 20th century. Churchill served as the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1940 to 1945 and again from 1951 to 1955, and he played a critical role in leading Britain through World War II. Throughout his long and eventful career, Churchill held a variety of political offices, including Chancellor of the Exchequer, Home Secretary, and First Lord of the Admiralty. He was also a prolific writer and historian, and he won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1953 for his 6-volume history of World War II. Churchill was known for his strong leadership skills, his inspiring speeches, and his fierce determination to defend British interests and values. He was a staunch defender of democracy and freedom, and he played a key role in shaping the post-war world order. His legacy as a wartime leader and champion of Western values continues to be celebrated and debated today. Some text goes here. Churchill is known for his inspirational speeches during World War II, but what was his childhood like and how did his early life shape his later career? Some text goes here. Winston Churchill's childhood was marked by both privilege and adversity, and these experiences played a significant role in shaping his later career as a politician and statesman. Churchill was born in 1874 into a wealthy and prominent family, and he grew up in a grand mansion in Oxfordshire, England. However, his childhood was also marked by a difficult relationship with his parents, particularly his father, Lord Randolph Churchill, who suffered from mental illness and died when Winston was just 20 years old. Despite these challenges, Churchill showed early signs of talent and ambition. He attended Harrow School and then went on to study at the Royal Military College at Sandhurst, where he trained as an officer in the British Army. Churchill's military career was not without controversy, and he was involved in a number of high-profile conflicts, including the Boer War in South Africa. However, it was Churchill's career as a writer and politician that truly established his reputation as a leader. Churchill began his writing career as a war correspondent during the Boer War, and he later published several books on his experiences as a soldier and journalist. He also served as a Member of Parliament for over 60 years, and he held a number of high-level government positions, including Prime Minister of the United Kingdom during World War II. Throughout his career, Churchill drew on the lessons he learned in his early life, including his experience with hardship and his family's legacy of public service. He also developed a reputation for being a masterful communicator, and his speeches during World War II are widely regarded as some of the most inspirational and powerful speeches in modern history. In many ways, Churchill's early life provided him with the resilience, determination, and eloquence that he would need to become one of the greatest leaders of the 20th century. Some text goes here. Churchill is famous for his love of cigars and alcohol, but how did these vices impact his health and personal life? Some text goes here. Churchill was known for his fondness for cigars, whiskey, and champagne, and he was often seen smoking and drinking in public. While these vices were a part of Churchill's public persona, they also had a significant impact on his health and personal life. In terms of his health, Churchill's heavy smoking and drinking took a toll on his body over time. He suffered from a number of health problems throughout his life, including heart disease, pneumonia, and bronchitis, which were exacerbated by his smoking habit. His doctors warned him about the dangers of smoking, but Churchill continued to smoke cigars until the end of his life. Churchill's drinking also had an impact on his personal life, particularly his relationships with his family and friends. He was known for his sharp tongue and his tendency to speak his mind, and his drinking sometimes caused him to say or do things that were hurtful or inappropriate. His drinking also put a strain on his relationships with his wife and children, who sometimes found his behavior difficult to deal with. Despite these challenges, Churchill's love of cigars and alcohol was also seen as a part of his charm and personality. He was known for his wit and his ability to hold his liquor, and he often used his love of these vices to build relationships and forge alliances with other leaders. Ultimately, while Churchill's smoking and drinking had both positive and negative impacts on his life, They are an integral part of his legacy as one of the most colorful and charismatic leaders of the 20th century. Some text goes here. Churchill is credited with playing a critical role in defeating Nazi Germany, but what were some of the key factors that led to his success as a wartime leader? Some text goes here. Churchill's success as a wartime leader during World War II was due to a combination of factors, including his leadership skills, strategic vision, and determination to win. Here are some of the key factors that led to his success. 1. Leadership skills. Churchill was an experienced politician and leader, with a deep knowledge of British history, culture, and politics. He was a skilled orator and communicator, with a gift for inspiring and motivating his fellow citizens during difficult times. He was also a master of strategy and tactics, with a keen understanding of the military and diplomatic challenges facing the Allied powers. 2. Strategic vision. Churchill had a clear vision for what needed to be done to defeat Nazi Germany, and he was willing to take bold and decisive action to achieve his goals. He recognized early on the importance of building a strong alliance with the United States and the Soviet Union, and he worked tirelessly to maintain these alliances throughout the war. He also had a deep understanding of the military and economic resources needed to win the war, and he was willing to invest heavily in these areas to ensure victory. 3. Determination to win. Churchill was a tenacious and determined leader, who refused to give up in the face of adversity. He was willing to take risks and make sacrifices to achieve his goals, and he was willing to make tough decisions, even when they were unpopular. He was also a leader who inspired confidence and trust among his fellow citizens and soldiers, and who was willing to lead by example in times of crisis. 4. Personal qualities. Churchill was known for his personal courage, resilience, and indomitable spirit, qualities that were critical to his success as a wartime leader. He was also known for his love of his country and his commitment to defending its values and freedoms, a passion that inspired millions of people around the world to join the fight against Nazi Germany. Overall, Churchill's success as a wartime leader was due to a combination of these factors, as well as many others. His leadership and vision helped to rally the Allied powers and inspire them to victory, and his personal qualities and determination set an example for generations of leaders to come. Some text goes here. Churchill was also a prolific writer and won the Nobel Prize in Literature. What were some of his most famous works and how did his writing career intersect with his political career? Some text goes here. Churchill was indeed a prolific writer, and his literary career intersected with his political career in a number of ways. Here are some of his most famous works and how they relate to his political career. 1. The River War. Churchill's first major work, published in 1899, was a history of the British campaign in the Sudan. The book helped to establish Churchill's reputation as a writer and historian, and it also revealed his admiration for the military and his belief in the importance of British imperialism. 2. My Early Life, published in 1930, this autobiography offered a personal account of Churchill's early years, including his education, military service, and early political career. The book helped to establish Churchill as a statesman and leader, and it also revealed his colorful personality and sense of humor. 3. The Second World War. Churchill's 6-volume History of the War, published between 1948 and 1953, is one of his most famous and influential works. The book offers a detailed account of the war from Churchill's perspective, and it also reflects his leadership role during the conflict. 4. A History of the English-Speaking Peoples, published between 1956 and 1958. This 4-volume history of the English-speaking world was one of Churchill's final literary works. The book reflects Churchill's lifelong interest in British history and his belief in the importance of democracy and freedom. Throughout his political career, Churchill used his writing to influence public opinion and advance his political agenda. His speeches and articles were widely read and quoted, and his literary works helped to establish his reputation as a leader and statesman. Churchill's writing also reflected his political beliefs, including his support for British imperialism, his belief in the importance of democratic values, and his admiration for the military. Ultimately, Churchill's literary career was an important part of his legacy as one of the most influential and inspiring leaders of the 20th century. Some text goes here: Churchill lived a long and eventful life, but what were some of the lesser-known or surprising aspects of his personal life and interests? Some text goes here: Churchill was indeed a complex and multifaceted figure, and there are many lesser-known or surprising aspects of his personal life and interests. Here are some examples. 1. Painting. Churchill was a talented painter and produced over 500 paintings in his lifetime. He began painting in his 40s and found it to be a calming and relaxing hobby. His works were often landscapes or seascapes, and he used painting as a way to escape from the stresses of his political life. There is something about the laying of bricks that satisfies the human spirit, and he spent many hours constructing walls and chimneys on his estate in Kent. 3. Romantic relationships. Churchill was married to his wife Clementine for over 56 years, and they had a strong and devoted relationship. However, he also had several close friendships with women over the years, including the American journalist Ethel Barrymore and the socialite Doris Cassler-Rossi. Some biographers have suggested that these relationships may have been romantic in nature, although there is no conclusive evidence to support this. 4. Pet animals. Churchill was a great lover of animals, and he kept a number of pets over the years, including dogs, cats, and birds. He was particularly fond of his poodle, Rufus, who accompanied him everywhere and was often seen sitting at his feet during cabinet meetings. Why stand when you can sit, and why sit when you can recline? The name of the author will appear here. Overall, these lesser-known aspects of Churchill's personal life and interests provide a more nuanced and human portrait of one of the most famous and celebrated figures in modern history. Some text goes here: Churchill was known for his wit and humor. What were some of his most memorable quips and one-liners? Some text goes here: Churchill was indeed known for his sharp wit and clever sense of humor. Here are some of his most memorable quips and one-liners. 1. I am always ready to learn. Churchill is known for his close partnership with Franklin D. Roosevelt during World War II. How did their relationship develop, and how did they work together to achieve victory? Churchill's partnership with Franklin D. Roosevelt was a crucial aspect of the Allied victory in World War II. The two leaders had a close personal relationship that developed over the course of the war, and they worked together to coordinate military strategy, intelligence, and diplomacy. Their relationship began in 1941, when Churchill traveled to the United States to meet with Roosevelt for the first time. The two leaders hit it off immediately, and they quickly developed a deep personal and professional bond. Over the next several years, they exchanged hundreds of letters and held numerous meetings, both in person and over the phone, as they worked together to coordinate the war effort. One of the key factors in their successful partnership was their complementary skills and personalities. Churchill was a strategic thinker and a master of diplomacy, while Roosevelt was a skilled politician and an expert in economic and social policy. Together, They were able to leverage their strengths and work collaboratively to achieve their goals. Another key aspect of their partnership was their ability to work through disagreements and maintain a strong personal relationship despite their political differences. Churchill was a staunch imperialist and believed in the importance of British power and influence, while Roosevelt was more focused on promoting democracy and human rights around the world. Despite these differences, they were able to find common ground and work together effectively. Overall, Churchill and Roosevelt's partnership was a crucial factor in the Allied victory in World War II. Their close personal relationship and their ability to work together effectively helped to coordinate the war effort and forge a strong alliance between the United States and Great Britain. Their legacy continues to inspire leaders around the world to work collaboratively and put aside their differences for the greater good. Some text goes here. Churchill was a strong advocate for the British Empire, but what was his stance on colonialism and decolonization? Some text goes here. Churchill was indeed a strong advocate for the British Empire, and he believed that the empire was a vital source of British power and influence around the world. However, his stance on colonialism and decolonization was complex and evolved over time. In his early political career, Churchill was a staunch defender of the British Empire and believed that it was the duty of the British government to maintain and expand its colonial holdings. He was particularly passionate about India, which he saw as a jewel in the crown of the empire. However, Churchill's views on colonialism began to shift in the years after World War II, as he recognized the growing demands for independence and self-determination among Britain's colonial subjects. He began to support greater autonomy and political rights for colonial peoples, and he was instrumental in negotiating the transfer of power to India in 1947. At the same time, Churchill remained a staunch defender of the British Empire and opposed what he saw as the hasty and reckless decolonization of Britain's overseas territories. He believed that the empire was an important source of British power and prestige, and he feared that its collapse would diminish Britain's standing in the world. Overall, Churchill's views on colonialism and decolonization were complex and evolved over time. While he was a strong advocate for the British Empire, he also recognized the importance of granting greater autonomy and political rights to colonial peoples. His legacy as a colonial-era leader continues to be debated and discussed today, with many historians grappling with the contradictions and complexities of his political views and actions. Some text goes here. Churchill was also a painter, and he produced hundreds of artworks throughout his life. How did his passion for art influence his political career, and what do his paintings reveal about his personality and interests? Some text goes here. Churchill's passion for art was an important part of his personal life and interests, and it also had an influence on his political career. His paintings reveal much about his personality and interests, and they offer a unique window into his private life and inner thoughts. Throughout his life, Churchill used painting as a way to escape from the stresses of politics and public life. He found the process of painting to be calming and relaxing, and he often painted scenes from his travels or landscapes from his country estates. Art is not a handicraft, it is the transmission of feeling the artist has experienced. This sentiment reflects his belief in the power of art to convey emotion and create meaning. Churchill's paintings offer a unique insight into his personality and interests. Many of his works are landscapes or seascapes, reflecting his love of the outdoors and his appreciation for nature. Others are portraits or still lifes, reflecting his interest in people and objects. In addition to his own artistic pursuits, Churchill was also a patron of the arts and a supporter of British cultural institutions. He recognized the importance of the arts in British life, and he was committed to promoting and preserving British cultural heritage. Overall, Churchill's passion for art was an important part of his personal life and interests, and it also had an influence on his political career. His paintings offer a unique insight into his personality and interests, and they help to humanize one of the most famous and celebrated figures in modern history. Some text goes here. Churchill was a controversial figure in many respects, but what were some of the things he did that were ahead of their time or that showed he was a progressive leader? Some text goes here. Churchill is indeed a controversial figure, and his legacy continues to be debated and discussed today. However, There are several things he did that were ahead of their time and that showed he was a progressive leader. Here are some examples. 1. Support for women's suffrage. Churchill was an early supporter of women's suffrage and spoke out in favor of women's rights throughout his political career. In 1910, he introduced a bill that would have given women the right to vote on the same terms as men, and although the bill was defeated, Churchill continued to advocate for women's suffrage in the years that followed. 2. Promotion of science and technology. Churchill was a strong advocate for science and technology, and he recognized the importance of these fields in driving economic growth and innovation. He was particularly interested in aviation and played a key role in promoting the development of the British aviation industry. 3. Commitment to social welfare. Churchill was a strong advocate for social welfare and believed that the government had a responsibility to support the most vulnerable members of society. He supported the introduction of social security programs and worked to improve the living conditions of working-class families. 4. Advocacy for international cooperation. Churchill was a firm believer in the importance of international cooperation and diplomacy, and he worked tirelessly to build strong relationships with other world leaders. He was instrumental in the formation of the United Nations and played a key role in promoting global cooperation and peace. Overall, these examples show that Churchill was a complex and multifaceted figure, and that his legacy includes both controversial and progressive elements. While he was certainly a product of his time, he also demonstrated a commitment to social progress and international cooperation that was ahead of its time. Some text goes here. Churchill is often praised for his bravery and resilience, but how did he cope with moments of doubt or fear during his career? Some text goes here. Churchill was indeed known for his bravery and resilience, but he also had moments of doubt and fear during his long and eventful career. However, he developed several strategies for coping with these moments and staying focused and motivated. Here are some examples. 1. Positive self-talk. Churchill was a master of positive self-talk, and he would often repeat affirmations to himself when he was feeling down or discouraged. One of his most famous quotes is, "Success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is the courage to continue that counts." 2. Physical activity. Churchill was a strong believer in the power of physical activity to boost mood and reduce stress. He would often take long walks or engage in other forms of exercise when he was feeling overwhelmed or anxious. I am an optimist. It does not seem too much use being anything else. The name of the author will appear here. 4. Meditation. Churchill was an early advocate of meditation and mindfulness, and he would often spend time in quiet contemplation to clear his mind and reduce stress. 5. Support network. Churchill had a strong support network of friends and family members who he could rely on for emotional support and encouragement. He also valued the support of his staff and colleagues, and he would often seek their input and feedback when he was facing a difficult decision or situation. Overall, these strategies helped Churchill to cope with moments of doubt and fear, and they allowed him to stay focused and motivated even in the most challenging of circumstances. His legacy as a resilient and determined leader continues to inspire people around the world today. Some text goes here. Churchill is often portrayed as a strong and unwavering leader, but what were some of his weaknesses and failures throughout his career? Some text goes here. While Winston Churchill is widely known for his inspiring speeches and leadership during World War II, he was also a complex figure with his share of weaknesses and failures throughout his career. Here are a few examples. 1. Gallipoli Campaign. Churchill was heavily involved in the planning of the disastrous Gallipoli Campaign during World War I, which resulted in the deaths of tens of thousands of soldiers. He believed that the campaign would quickly end the war and open up a new front in the Balkans, but it ended up being a costly failure that damaged his reputation. 2. India. Churchill was a staunch imperialist who opposed Indian independence, famously referring to Mahatma Gandhi as a half-naked fakir. He was also responsible for the Bengal famine of 1943, which resulted in the deaths of millions of people due to his policies. 3. Norway. In 1940, Churchill made the decision to send British troops to Norway, but the operation was a disaster. The troops were poorly equipped and faced harsh weather conditions, resulting in heavy losses. 4. Strategic mistakes. Churchill made some strategic mistakes during World War II, such as diverting resources to campaigns in North Africa and Italy that could have been used in the Normandy invasion, and underestimating the strength of the Japanese military. 5. Domestic policies. Churchill's domestic policies were not always successful, such as his decision to continue rationing after the war ended, which was deeply unpopular with the public. Overall, while Churchill is often remembered as a great leader, it is important to acknowledge his weaknesses and failures as well.